Greetings, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I'm Big
And
Fella,
I'm Crudo.
and welcome to Pop Talks, where we take a slice out of the pop culture pie. For our final horror-themed episode of this month, we are talking about the scariest anime that Credo and I have ever watched. Now, we started off like everyone else probably did. You probably watched Dragon Ball or Gundam or even the first Hunter x Hunter anime when you were growing up. But what if like you went down the anime rabbit hole, as it were? And you start to see stuff that's like more like lesser known or even spookier if you want one that's going to scare your socks off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, horror for me has always been a very strong genre, especially in anime, because when it comes to horror anime, the writers really don't hold back. That's what I like, because they're willing to show the most gruesome and just unfiltered content that a lot of people are not ready to see, but it also maintains its appeal and its like entertaining value.
And not just gruesomeness, like a lot of the horror anime that I've seen, like I mean yes, there's a lot of gruesome violence in there. It's just like you're watching a slasher movie, but it's more the psychological stuff that gets to me. And that I think is like one of the most effective kinds of horror because some of these instances could be potentially realistic. I mean, I'm not sure like how many murderous psychopaths there are in the world, but I know there's quite a few of them. So the fact that like a criminal mastermind like going after somebody is not entirely far fetched.
hmm Yeah, and and a lot of these anime, these like horror anime, they get into different like subgenres. Like I've seen supernatural horror anime, you've seen like slasher horror anime, and one of the more popular ones seems to be like high
It
school type.
Yeah, what why like I mean not saying that I'd want to be in this position, but why wasn't our high school life this exciting? I mean, literally there are kids like either being in murder games, uncovering supernatural conspiracies, or being hunted down by a crazy serial killer. I mean, I wouldn't want that per se, but it would have made high school a little bit more tolerable.
Yeah, definitely, dude. And a lot of these like some high school anime that's somewhat like pervasive. I'd say it would be like High School of the Dead, for example. Like that was a really popular one when I first got into anime. In addition to like I don't know if High School DxD counts.
Not necessarily. That's more like an etchy action adventure type deal. Like not necessarily horror, but High School of the Dead certainly does qualify, and that's one anime that I've also watched. Like I love that series. I haven't read the manga, but I've heard the manga is pretty good too. And I'll just say this now. I am severely disappointed that we will never get a proper conclusion because the mangaka Daisuke Sato, I think his name was, that he passed away and that the other guys he worked with won't do a continuation. I'm like, I understand, like you want to honor your friend's legacy and like not tarnish like his work or anything, but can't you at least give us like some sliver of hope? I mean, some parts of the anime do end on a hopeful note, but just the sheer number of the zombies is pretty horrific, and a lot of the moments, particularly in the first part in the school, that part's really intense, and it really just adds to like you don't know if there's a zombie around the corner because the wrong move could potentially mean certain death. So I would certainly qualify that as horror, but with a mix of action in it.
I remember I saw the meme with High School of the Dead where like the dude's shooting a sniper and it's like going between the boobs and all that. Yeah, that was a
Yes. Oh my god, that like just what the I'm wondering what was the author thinking with that. I mean, not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it just it leaves much to be like wondered. Like how did someone come up with this?
I don't know. It's kind of like a rage bait induced boner when you think about it, because yeah, you're scared and all that. That anxiety just translates into larger blood flow, and now you just want to get it on.
Yeah, but in the case of another high school horror anime that we've watched was Another. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with that one follows a boy. I do not remember his name, but he like returns I think to his hometown or he goes to this town and there's a lot of weird stuff going on. Like there's a curse that people don't talk about, and whenever people try to like investigate it further, they wind up dying horrific deaths. Now, The closest thing I could compare this to, compared to a Western show, would have to be the Final Destination series, because this anime, like, literally a girl falls down the stairs and gets impaled by the sharp end of an umbrella in her neck. And I'm like, Jesus, this seems like something you would see in Final Destination. Or another one where a nurse is in an elevator, the elevator breaks and it plummets right down to the ground floor. And just like, okay, is it me, or did Final Destination take a page out of this? Or did another take a page out of Final Destination's book?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, what, like with another at least, like, it also has that high school setting, which I've discussed before, and the fact that this guy is kind of like unable to come to terms with the reality because he's the only one who could see May, the girl. And,
Yes, the girl with the eye patch.
Mm-hmm. And the dude's name was Koichi,
Okay.
similar to the one from JoJo. And the plot seems to go into weird directions a lot. Like, okay, I get it. Like, the guys continuously die, but I don't feel like they give it enough development, like development for the characters.
Yeah, like it feels like as soon as like they do start to build development, boom, they get killed in horrific ways. And another thing, like one thing that sort of subverts a trope that I found in this series was the episode where there's a beach episode. Now, for those of you who are familiar with anime, there's often an episode where you get to see the guys and the girls in swimsuits. And I know you're like, yeah, we get to see our favorite characters in a fan service based episode. But unlike in this show, the beach episode does not end up with all the group having fun. It literally ends with one of them dying of a heart attack as he's swimming out. And like he's like, I don't remember if he was already unconscious, but a boat comes by and you can guess what the propeller does to his body. It basically ends in tragedy.
You know, these really weird deaths, they remind me of that one anime, Elf and Lead.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that one, would you count that as a horror? I mean, I think it could be, because like when you look at the cover of the first volume, I'm like, hey, this looks like it might be a cute anime, but then you open the page and you like see horrific deaths occur. I'm like, oh my god.
I remember the first time I saw it, I was like 14 years old, and I got my brother's hard drive. He had a hard drive, and I hooked it up to the computer looking for something to watch, and I saw Elf and Lead. I'm like, why would my brother be watching this? And turns out his friend gave it to him. And I started to watch it, but I made the mistake of watching it at night when, it was still dark, everybody in my house was asleep, so I had to go down and get a drink of water. That was not going to happen.
Yeah, like, anytime I watch something scary, like recently, like, I will say this, after my cousin and I watched the movie Longlegs, I literally came home and I kept all the lights on for most of the night, and I like turned up the light in my room like all the way, because ain't no way in hell I was sleeping in the dark with the knowledge of that movie in my head. But yeah, Elf and Lead, it certainly has elements of horror. I mean, there's a lot of graphic violence in it, and I would say that this is like horror, like in the sense of it, like you don't suspect a cute character such as Lucy, the main character, being the one who commits it. Like, literally, this girl is in the middle of a festival in one part of the movie of the anime, and when this one woman like tries to check on her, like not doing anything wrong, she's just trying to be nice. Boom! The lady gets sliced in half, and Lucy proceeds to massacre almost everyone at this festival. I'm like, my God! So I guess it could be considered a horror anime.
I think the most memorable part was the one with the dog.
No, we do not talk about that here. That part is sad. That is one part of the anime that I have a very hard time watching, if I watch it at all.
Yeah, but the opening scene actually was pretty cool when she's like breaking out of that facility.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way she's just slicing and dicing through the guys. I was like, okay, this seems to be getting interesting, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, where is this leading to as well?
Yeah, and it actually, for a quick side note, I actually read that the creators of Stranger Things actually developed like inspiration of the character Elle from Lucy. So I find that pretty cool, because if you think about it, it is kind of similar in a few instances. I mean, a girl breaking out of a government facility, government is looking for her, kills people that try to hide her or help her. You can definitely make the connection in certain aspects.
For real. And another horror anime I'd say, which is already really popular, but it didn't get a proper anime adaptation, was Tokyo Ghoul.
Yes, I will say because the part where wasn't his name Shuichi? No.
Who,
Oh
Kanji?
no, I am thinking of. I'm messing up with these guys. I've seen a lot of these anime, but bear with me. It's been a couple of years since I've finished them. But Ken Kaneki, yes, the part where like he's going on a date with that nice looking girl, seems like she could be into him, and she turns out to be a ghoul. That part was scary as hell. Like imagine you're having a nice date, everything's going well, but then all of a sudden your date bites into your neck and proceeds to grow tentacles out of her back and is coming at you hungry for your blood.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's ever going to happen to me, but I mean, if it does, I'd be somewhat amazed, but at the same time, I'd be running for my life. But then again, I wouldn't want, if I were in a critical condition, I wouldn't want her organs to be transplanted into mine, knowing the fact that she's a monster. So, yeah, I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah, and like Credo said, Tokyo Ghoul, the anime did not do the manga justice. Like if you really want to get scared, if you really want to get freaked out, read the manga. Like the manga is far superior. But I still give the anime a watch because I do like certain aspects of it. I like the performances, the voice actors. Like I said, for the English dub, because I'm a dub preference guy. They do really well.
Yeah, and and like the anime does and the manga too, it covers a lot of different themes, which encompass stuff like equality, humanity, in addition to like integration and like and social and like social issues, and also adjusting to a new life. Because now he joins a secret society of ghouls who are trying to like become accepted by society, and that kind of reminds me of a lot of different other plots. Like when you think about video games, I know this one's not horror, but you got Detroit Become Human. You know, that you can draw the parallels between both and notice that hey, these guys were just like trying to make a living and they're trying to like, not get killed by the police. So, I find that pretty like intriguing.
Yeah, and like Credo said earlier, like Ken Kaneki is now a ghoul. And as you watch the show further and you see like human and ghoul characters, like sometimes the ghouls act humane and stuff, but sometimes the humans act like absolute monsters. And it always makes me think of the question, what makes a monster and what makes a man?
Yep. Yeah, that is actually a very thought provoking question because sometimes, even when you look at animals, like if you happen to have a pet or something, sometimes their innocence is enough to make you love them more than you actually love real people. Because sometimes an animal will go out of its way in real life, I'm saying, like an animal will go out of its way to to help somebody, to save somebody's life, and even like with immense loyalty and care. So, so that just goes to show that sometimes even with the ghouls and the humans, sometimes the ghouls are the good guys and the humans could be the bad guys because they're just simply being oppressive towards another group of people that didn't deserve it.
Exactly. Now, another anime that I saw that came out in the early 2000s that I've rewatched it on Toonami that doesn't necessarily some parts of it could be like not necessarily supernatural, but when you think of the mob mentality or the urban legend type genres, I'm talking about Paranoia Agent, where basically this kid, like they call him Shonen Bat, he goes around attacking people with a bent baseball bat, and people start to get really scared to the point where like they start like embellishing on certain legends about him, and the animation like it gets really weird and distorted at times. Like it looks like the animator was probably high when he was making this, but that like really the fact that like they embellish on the character of Shonen Bat and like makes his like presence more prolific, it starts to terrify people, and people rightfully start getting freaked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I haven't seen that show yet, but one that I do really like that I've seen like way back in the past was Ninja Scroll. Now, I would say that does count as a horror anime in my opinion because I mean it follows the archetypes. It's got demons, it's got violence, it's got supernatural like occurrences. And I do like the historical aspect of it, like with the Tokugawa shogunate and how they're like trying to overthrow the current shogunate, and like there's the other shogunate coming in to take its place. And then you got the guy Juve who has to like defend the shogun, and not really defend the shogun, but to like stop the resistance, you know. But then that guy, what was his name, Daquan or something?
Maybe? I
Yeah,
don't know. It's been a while since I watched Ninja Scroll.
yeah, that guy just essentially blackmails him the whole time and like friggin' poisons him and forces him to like do the things unless, and if he doesn't do it, he won't get
He'll
the
die.
antidote. He won't
Ki-
get the antidote.
Kind of like the Suicide Squad almost, except Jubei is by himself.
Hmm.
I will say that there is one part of the anime that I would definitely count as like something you'd see in a horror scene. I don't, like I said, I only remember Jubei, but I do remember all the bad guys he fights. Like I remember a dude who could control bees or something, another chick who could like fight out of the shadows. But one guy I remember, he had this like double-edged sword, kind of like a dual-ended sword. Like imagine the Darth Maul's dual-ended lightsaber. This freaking dude literally looks like he's made of rocks. And when these like assassins try to fight him, he literally throws that sword through the trees, and it chops them all up, and their bodies fall to the ground, and then their blood like drips like rain on their bodies. And I just thought that part was super freaking creepy. And this dude, like he literally could have been a serial killer back in the time of the Shogunate.
Hmm. Yeah. Now here's another cool thing I'd say about the Ninja Scroll movies, because I also got an animated series, like a 12 episode animated series. I haven't seen it yet, but I've yet to see it. I want to see it. And what I do think this movie does best, at least, is that it shows the real grit and like the unfiltered horror, as I said before. Because when it comes to slashers and like integrating a lot of different genres and whatnot, you go you go through a series of developments in the plot, and one of the key developments I'd say in the plot was when like they reached the end, well, it was like nearing the end of the movie, and this dude kind of like he thinks that he gets a sense of closure, but it turns out that he's just gonna have to go through this all over again.
Yeah, like the whole process of like a character completing their journey, but they find that like if it's a story of revenge or any other type of action adventure based thing, you will find that in a lot of those stories sometimes the adventure never ends, or it usually ends with like the adventure continues, just like the original fairy tale series before 100 Years Quest came out. Like it felt like they would continue the journey, and then we found out that they were getting a sequel series. I really wish that like Ninja Scroll would get more love and attention, because I don't feel like people talk about it enough, because the anime movie, like I haven't watched the anime series either, but I have watched the movie, and I will say that it is one of my favorite action with a little bit of horror mixed in. But I don't think that the anime could do the original justice.
Hmm. No, I agree on that point, because usually when it comes to sequels, the sequel is either really, really good or it's just like god awful. There's nothing redeemable about it, and you just wish that it never existed. So I'd say this Ninja Scroll sequel, based on what I've seen, what I've heard from people, they say it's pretty good. Like that's why I'm planning to give it a watch. But the fact that it just only has like 12 episodes, doesn't get any more seasons, is like an insult to the world building, because to me, world building is like the peak of any good series, you know?
Absolutely. And the fact that like they don't like embellish further on it, like it feels like you're doing it a great disservice. Like imagine, okay, God forbid, like I'm using a quick reference here. Imagine if Dragon Ball just ended like in the first series. That would be doing a great injustice. I mean, now we have Goku and Vegeta fighting literal gods of chaos and dudes who could literally like destroy their entire world. And back in the day, we literally saw Goku being raised by Master Roshi, who went up against the greatest martial artist in the world at that time, Jackie Chung. And I'm just like, if you like stopped there, like just stop there, I'm like, that's it. Like they're not gonna like go beyond, like see what else is going on in the world. I mean, like where did Goku come from? Where does his story begin? But I'm glad that like I mean yes, Dragon Ball, it's been going on for a long time, but I will defend it. But other animes like this, they do like deserve their chance to shine. Like I would say for Ninja Scroll, like if they made like the movie and like a couple seasons of an anime, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, for sure. And one more that I liked personally was Ghost Hunt. If you guys ever heard of it, well, it follows like the plot. It goes through it follows a set of people working in a psych ward, and a lot of like weird stuff starts to happen. That's like the easiest way I could sum it up. And they do have magic, which is something that I find interesting because a lot of magic based anime series doesn't really explore the powers as well as it could explore them. God, this mask keeps falling off.
Sorry.
It's alright.
Sorry.
It's alright. But so like magic power systems are usually good in anime, but in a lot of different anime, it's improperly used because when it comes to magic, there should be a lot of diversity in spells, in techniques, and the acquisition of the magic. I think in this series, the magic is it's well balanced relative to the enemies that they face, and yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I haven't heard of this one, but I'll have to look into it because it sounds like it could be intriguing. Because like I've primarily watched like a lot of anime that came out like after 2001, like any before that, like I'm just learning about on the internet on YouTube. So I'm obviously like getting to know more about that. But one anime that came out, I think it was in 2010 or somewhere around there, was called Shiki. Now that one is one of the very first vampire anime that I watched besides Hellsing. By the way, if any of you have not seen Hellsing Ultimate or the original, personally I prefer Hellsing Ultimate over the original. I mean, the original is very good, but also check out the manga. The manga is fantastic. But Shiki basically follows this kid as he returns to his village home, and a lot of weird stuff starts to happen. He starts to see people out at night, and this has a lot of very very creepy imagery, like the way like the vampires, like there's one like still from the series where these two vampires are outside and they're looking at the screen, and you see the red outlines of their eyes. Like you don't see their irises, you just see red where their eyes should be. Now, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but seeing that for the first time scared the shit out of me. And like, yeah, some of the vampires in this series aren't necessarily bad, but a few of them are, and the lengths that the people are willing to go to kill them. Even one character who literally like kills his vampire infected wife by hammering a wooden stake into her chest. That also brings into question, like as I said with Tokyo Ghoul, who's the real monster here? The people that didn't choose to be monsters, or the humans that are killing the monsters?
Oh, absolutely. Um, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, another another good like avenue to go down towards would be checking out the manga for the horror because the art style is usually unmatched. Like, okay, you got some good art style in in other seinen series, but two that I've noticed had incredible art style would be Berserk. I would count that as somewhat horror. Like it has elements, and
Yes.
like the works of Junji Ito.
Yes. And like I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No, I'm
Credo.
done.
But yeah, Junjo Ito, he's one of the most recognized horror manga authors. This man has created so many good manga series I've actually read. Like I read Uzumaki, Red Moon, I think was one of them. Hold up, I have it right here. Let me look it up. Junjo Ito. I'm sorry, guys. Oh yeah, he also did a story of Frankenstein, which is actually really well done. Tomei, that's the one I was thinking. But yeah, like this dude, he's written and made some really good manga series, and a lot of his works like have been adapted into anime, but none have done them justice. Like there was one that came out in 2018, went for one season called the Junjo Ito Collection. It certainly felt scary in some parts, but it does not do the manga like any justice. I don't mean to keep using that phrase, but yeah, like I would say for Junjo Ito's work, stick to the manga. Like Uzumaki, which I watched on Adult Swim, the first episode was really good, but the following episodes just declined in quality. I'm like, I'm not finishing this. Like, how is it that like an anime that like follows the art style that is in black and white? How do they manage to mess it up? I was severely disappointed with how that turned out.
This isn't a new concept when they come to messing things up because, I mean, I've seen so many. I've made so many links right now, like showing that there's just so much anime. Like if it stayed true to the manga, it would have been like you could easily put it S tier, and nobody would debate it. So stuff like Tokyo Ghoul, like if you actually give the manga a chance, you're gonna love it. Anything Junji Ito writes
You'll
in
love it.
manga, even Berserk, because we don't talk about that new Berserk anime. That one was just horrible.
Yeah, and the fact that it was CG. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but there's only been like certain CG anime that I've watched, or like anime that have like certain aspects of CG. But if you're doing it entirely with that form of animation, it just doesn't look good. Like the original Berserk, that series is the best, and I would say that the ending is one of the bleakest endings of the anime. I mean, as far as I don't know who's taken over writing after Kentaro Miura passed away, but I certainly hope that they keep the same element of horror because a lot of aspects of this anime are very, very horrific in terms of psychological or just like a folk horror because a lot of it does deal with like demonic stuff, and that is very terrifying in and of itself.
Oh, good, bro. I got all to say today.
Well, actually, there's one more I wanted to mention. This is the last anime that like we will cover for today, and after this, we will go back to covering other pop culture mediums. Was Perfect Blue. Now, Perfect Blue, it follows a former member of a Japanese idol group, and they're all the rage in Japan. Basically, her agent tells her to retire from singing and pursue a career in acting. And she goes through with this, but after she does this, an obsessive fan, a stalker, begins to stalk her more so and begins to kill people around her. And as this goes further, she literally starts to lose her grip on reality. Like, and they're like two versions of herself come into play. Either like the fake version of herself, which is seen on the screen, and her real self, who's just trying to get through her daily life. This anime, like, it really messes with your head. Like, imagine you're watching a movie by M. Night Shyamalan, except it's good. But yeah, this movie, it doesn't. I mean, there's a lot of like, there is some very, very gruesome deaths in this one, but I wouldn't say it's as gruesome as Elfen Lied or Berserk. But it still gets to you. Like, it's not enough to churn your stomach or whatever, but it is enough to make you go, oh. Yeah, like I said, psychological horror is one of the most effective types of horror that I've ever seen. So I would certainly recommend, like, I would recommend a lot of these anime to you. But all I can say is do not watch alone and do not watch in the dark like Credo did with Elfen Lied, because do that, you're probably going to have nightmares.
Mm-hmm. And guess now it's time to close out.
Yes, that ends our episode for today. And as I said, this is our last horror-themed episode of the month. But over time, we will cover other horror-based things because there's a lot of horror anime out there, horror manga that we have yet to cover. But so, like I said, we will be covering other stuff in the following weeks. We'll have to decide what we'll cover. But as always, leave a comment, a like, subscribe if you want to, and if there's anything that you want us to cover, whether it be a movie, a TV show, cartoon, anime, comic, manga, please email us at jolioentertainment@gmail.com. Once again, I'm Big Fella,
I'm Credo.
and we'll see you next time.